Hey everybody, this is Matthew from StrategyGamecast.com bringing you another Zerg build order tutorial. And this is again just a tutorial on a few of the build orders that I have found to be very effective in 1v1 games, and some 2v2 as well. Now build orders are not set in stone, especially because we're still in beta. Things are going to change, prices are going to change as Blizzard balances everything, so don't take this as being the absolutely what you have to do. In fact, you should still remain flexible when you're doing your build orders, because your opponent can really throw you off if you're not flexible. So this is for the Fast Expand, which is probably one of the most common Zerg build orders, which gets them a very strong economy early in the game. And so what we want here is we want to quickly expand, hence Fast Expansion. Now this is being played on Metalopolis, and so what you do want to make sure is you still scout and everything, although it's not quite as important, although it's always important, but it's not quite as important as we're not going to be harassing them really early. We're just going to let them kind of do whatever they want. Up against a computer player, Protoss, who does nothing, so don't expect anything fancy from him. So the way the Fast Expansion works is like this. First, you build up to 10 drones, and then you build an Overlord. And as soon as the Overlord is done, you build 3 more drones, and you get up to 14 drones. Once you get up to 14, you build a spawning pool. Now some people will argue that they will build their hatchery before their spawning pool. As I said, nothing is set in stone. You can do it however you like. The reason I like the spawning pool first is because if somebody does do an early harassment against you, you are ready for them and you're able to build some Zerglings to help out. And you'll have your queen ready earlier as well. Once you have the spawning pool, you build up to 16 drones. So you get up to a 16 count. And the moment you have 200 resources, you have one of your drones head off. Now you're seeing 2 drones head off because I'm going to actually use one for scouting as well. So if you leave around 200 minerals, then you'll be at 300 by the time you get to your expansion and you're ready to go in there. So that's really super optimized. Whether it makes that much difference if you do it quite at that time or not, it doesn't really matter. The idea here is that we're optimizing our initial build order. So we have our drone going over there. He's going to die because I don't even watch him because I don't really care, because I'm just showing you the build order. Once you have the hatchery out, you can build an extractor at 17, which brings you back down to 16, just in time for you to build the queen. And so the queen is going to be coming out, and once you have the queen out, you build an overlord, and that is pretty much the build order for Fast Expand. So to recap, you build a spawning pool at 14, you build your hatchery at 16, and then you get up to 17 and you build your extractor, which brings you back down to 16, which allows you to build your queen the moment your spawning pool is ready. Then you build an overlord, and then what I usually like to do is you have to base what you do next off of what you see your opponent has. And that's really where the build orders fall apart, and it becomes more of reacting against your opponent. Build orders will help you survive and get in that early game so you won't get surprised by your opponent. But they won't help you win a game if that's all you rely on. You have to scout, you have to see what your opponent is doing. And in this case, I'm just going to build a couple extractors, and I think I'm going to go speedlings and just wipe them out, which isn't really anything too exciting. So once you do have your second hatchery up, I sent the queen off. As soon as the queen was built, I had it spawn larva, and then I just sent it off to the second one and started building another queen right here so that I could start the second queen earlier. You can theoretically work off of one queen, but since they've made it move a lot slower when it's off of creep, it's not quite as easy. And I like having 2 queens anyways, because then you can do your creep tumors and everything later. You should pull some drones off of your first production line, or your first mineral line, so it's not quite as saturated. The reason for that is because you'd want your expansions to run out of minerals first, and that way if you get into a later game, your main base lasts longer than their main base, and you're able to out-macro them because your economy is more stabilized. And so here I'm just upgrading to a layer, and yeah, there we go. Now evolving the metabolic boost to get the Zerglings faster. Really, from this point on, I'm not necessarily playing very competitively, just because I wanted to show you the build order and I knew I was against a computer. But you can see that we got lots of drones here working at the expansion. So if you look at the income difference, this is a really bad example because they don't even saturate their lines. But you can see I'm already up to around 900 minerals, and an opponent, when they saturate their main base, will be around 400 or 500. So you really have the economic advantage that if they start to push against you, you're able to push back hard, because you're able to just produce, you're able to outproduce them so quickly. And so what you can usually do is, once you have your fast expansion, you need to start harassing them so you can make the difference and your advantage and their disadvantage even more extreme. For example, you're mining way more than them, so send in a harassment to take out some of their SCVs or drones or probes, so they're mining even less. So the difference between how much you're mining and how much they're mining is even more obvious. And that way you're able to tech up and really able to do some damage. But make sure you're always scouting them out so you know what they're doing, so that you can make sure you act exactly the way you should. Because right now, see, I haven't even built roaches or hydralisks. By this point, I should have had a hydralisk den up, or unless I really knew that they weren't going air, and I should have had, you know, roaches or, you know, teching up to something. But I just don't care because I know what I'm up against. So the metabolic boost is done. So we do have Zerglings just running in there, and they're going to go clean up this Protoss. We already had a couple run in there. The Zealot didn't even try to come back and take out the other one. And they run in, start surrounding the very few probes that the computer opponent really does have. I hope that they improve the computer. I realize it's better to play against people, but it's nice every once in a while just to have some fun against a computer opponent. So I hope they do improve that AI. But there we are, the Zerglings are now overwhelming it. You can see the economy is running very strong. We're not even 9 minutes into the game yet, and we already have 2 bases being really saturated. The computer says GG, which means I'm going to win, and I say you too because he doesn't really hear me anyways. Even though he's still chrono boosting more probes out. He really doesn't know what he's doing. And there goes that forge. And that is the end of this replay. So that is the fast expand. Now, do not use the fast expand if you are on a very small 2-player map, especially if you're up against Protoss or up against Zerg, because they will usually rush you with Zerglings or with Zealots. I would go more for a fast Speedling or a fast Roach. You can still do the fast expand, but you just have to be very careful that you are scouting them out. If you do scout them out and you see that they're just going for a standard build, which is very unusual for a small map, then you could go fast expand if you wanted to. I usually always go fast expand if I'm on a 4-player map, because I know the opponent has a harder time rushing because they don't know where I am. And they have to find that out before they can really rush in, so it's a lot harder for them to do it. And this stops Reaper harassments really nicely too, because the spawning pool is there early. You have the queens, and you can build Zerglings on demand if you really need to. And even if the Reapers manage to kill a few drones, your economy is doing very well because you have 2 bases going. So this is Matthew again from StrategyGamecast.com. Hopefully you enjoyed these tutorials on the Zerg build orders. We'll probably be doing some Terran and Protoss ones as well. And if you have any suggestions on how this build order could be improved, feel free to make comments, because this is beta. So we're always improving, things are always changing, new orders are always being discovered. So make sure you try out new things. Don't just stick with what you've learned here. Use this as a basis for something that you'll try, and then move from there. And make sure you watch lots of replays too, because then you can see what the professionals are doing and see what their build orders are. There must be a reason that they do what they do if they're very good at this game. So this is Matthew from StrategyGamecast.com. Go to StrategyGamecast.com for more tutorials and replays, and I will talk to you next time.